Hello everyone, this is Jag. Well, in this video I'm going to cover why you should be planting your trees in square holes. So here at Daisy Creek Farms we have planted lots of trees and all of them are doing really well. We planted jujubes, persimmons. Earlier this spring we planted 4 acres of stone fruit including cherries, nectarines, peaches, blue hearts and plums. So all of them are doing great and I'll be posting a video about those as well. But in this video, I'm going to talk about why you should be planting your trees in square holes. Now, when it comes to gardening and farming, it's not like one size fits all. Just because somebody says to do something one way doesn't mean everybody needs to do it that way, because it all depends on your conditions. So the reason for planting trees in square holes is because if you have very hard compacted soil, the roots are not bound within that hole. So if you dig a round hole and you plant a tree in there, the roots are going to go in circular order. So they're not going to go break through to the harder clay ground or harder ground that you have. But if you have sandy loam soil or sandy soil which is very loose soil, you don't have to worry about that. You can dig any size hole, any type hole, and your trees will just do fine. You can build, you can dig a rectangular hole or a round hole, triangle hole. It doesn't really matter in that case because your soil is already very loose and roots have no problem to break through into your native soil. Now what happens is, if you have really hard compacted soil, that's one of the reasons that you should be digging square holes to plant these trees. So let me cover that and let me give you a little bit more examples on how to do that and some benefits of doing that as well. So let's get started. So let me dig a hole here. So I've already watered this area because clay ground gets really compact really fast, and I've already added manure and compost in here and made my berms. So that is why I keep it wet. I keep the moisture in there to preserve the microbiology in the soil. So if I let it dry, all the microorganisms, they start to die out, and that's not what I want. I want to keep a healthy soil. So that's reason number 2 to keep this soil moist is look at how easy it is to go through it. I'm going through like cheese. Even though this ground is supposed to be really hard and really compacted, I'm going through this ground like cheese. All right, so let me keep digging this hole, and I'm gonna keep making this hole in a square shape. Because we do have clay soil, we have little compacted soil, so we want to make sure the roots break through into the native soil. Here you go. Our square hole is almost ready. I'm just going to dig and get some dirt out of there, create defined 90-degree edges.
Planting trees in square holes is not a new idea. It's been around for decades. My neighbor mentioned when they planted trees in their ranch in 1990, SMUD, which is Sacramento Municipal Utility District, they gave them free trees and instructed them to plant trees in square holes back then because we have really heavy clay soil. Here are tree planting instructions from Texas Forestry Service. It mentions, dig the hole no deeper than the root ball to keep the tree from settling too deep, and dig square holes to allow for root penetration out of the hole and into the surrounding soil. Here's an article from Master Gardeners of San Diego on 10 common myths of trees. They are debunking a myth that says planting trees in deep holes help create taproots. They say deep holes can actually kill a tree by burying the root crown and causing root rot. Instead, dig as wide a hole as possible and plant only as deep as soil in the root ball. Round holes in compacted soil encourage circling roots, while roots may penetrate through the corners of a square hole.
Alright, so what happens is when you plant a tree in square holes and it has defined 90-degree edges, is that when the roots try to find a way and they hit a 90-degree edge, it doesn't bounce back and it doesn't create into a root ball. It goes through because roots don't really make a U-turn. They keep going through. If you have a round hole and the roots actually hit the edge of your hole, they will start tracking your hole. They will start making a round circle around that hole and will create a root ball. So that happens when the soil around that hole is much harder than the hole itself. And you amend all that soil, you dig a hole, you amend the soil, and you plant a tree in there. All that softer ground is what is going to be preferred by the tree, and the roots of the trees are not going to go into your native soil. So that is the main reason to plant your trees in square holes with defined 90-degree edges. Now, here's a disclaimer. When we planted 4 acres of stone fruit, we actually didn't do that. And the reason is that we deep ripped the land. And we had really hard compacted clay soil with a hard pan at 2.5 to 3 feet deep. So we had to deep rip it so the roots of the trees can go deeper into the soil. Once we deep ripped it and disced it, the ground was already very soft and there was no need for us to dig square holes. All we did was dig a hole big enough for the roots for bare root trees and amended it with compost, and we stuck the tree into the ground and covered it with soil, and they did just fine because the soil was already very loose. It was not compact. All right, so let me get this tree out of this container. Now, as you can see, it's already, root bound. It's already circular. So I'm going to go and scratch it around to loosen it on all sides. So break up the roots just a little so the roots start growing again in all directions rather than a circular direction. You have to make the tree rethink. And then I'm going to lower it into the square hole. Now here's another tip when planting trees. Now it doesn't matter which tree you're planting. You have to keep the soil level the same as your level. So when you pull the tree out of the container, the level of the tree in the container should be the same as the level of your soil. Now we are on a little berm here because I want drainage. So I made the level of this tree the same as the top of the berm. So now I'm going to fill it in, but before that, one more tip. Now as you can see, the tree is leaning that way. Now I need to make it a little bit more this way. And the reason, the wind blows from the west here, because on the west coast there's an ocean, and the wind blows from the ocean back into the land. So wind always blows this way, and I want the tree to be facing into the wind. Now if I were to plant the tree leaning this way or straight, the wind is going to make the tree lean over and it's going to break the tree. So I'm going to make the tree lean a little bit into the wind, and that's how we planted all of the 500 fruit trees in 4 acres. We leaned it into the wind. So here it is. Here's the tree leaning into the wind, and now we're going to fill it in. All right, so let me fill it in. So almost done here. Just filling it in and keeping the integrity of the berm while doing so. Pressing the soil just a little bit around the tree and keeping level the same. Now as you can see, this is where the tree was grafted. Right here. This is the graft. You should never have the soil level above the graft because you need to expose the grafting joint above the soil level. So keeping that in mind, and the level at which the tree was planted earlier, I'm going to smooth it out, and here the tree has been planted. Now one final step. I have lots of wood chips in here, so we're gonna mulch this tree with wood chips. Wood chips help to retain moisture in the soil. It also breaks down and provides the fertilizer for the tree as well. So let's get to that. Alright, I'm gonna spread the wood chips around. And I'm going to stick in my sprinkler for watering in here, and this tree is ready to go. So we're digging square holes in this area is because we didn't deep rip this area because it was really close to the phone line and electric poles that are running here. So this was not deep ripped. So that's why I loosened up the soil just around this tree, and rest of the ground is still hard. So I'm digging square holes here so that the tree roots don't just stay in the soft ground, that they find a definitive edge and they break up into the native soil. Digging square holes is not for planting every kind of tree. If you're planting oak or eucalyptus or other trees that have a really strong root system, you don't have to dig square holes to plant trees, even if you have really tough ground. And that's because they have really strong root system, and I've seen these trees break up asphalt and concrete. So they don't really need square holes. You can plant them in square holes or round holes. It doesn't really matter. However, if you have tough ground and you want to plant citrus trees, some stone fruit like cherries, apricots, and peach, and you want to plant avocados or persimmons, these kind of trees don't have very big root system or strong root system, especially in the early phases of their life. So they will really benefit from digging up square holes so they don't get root bound and they hit an edge and they break through into your native soil. Now this is a persimmon tree. As you can see, it already has persimmons on this tree. So we'll be able to harvest these persimmons this winter. So right after Thanksgiving, they'll start to ripen. So this is why you should plant your trees in square holes. Now this is not for everyone and it's not for every single soil condition. So I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you can make good use of the information from this video as well. And I'll see you in another video.